Files. Books. Safari. Safari. Back. Dimmed. Button.
Welcome to the 5th Understanding the IPCC presentation. At this point, I normally quote Carl Sagan. Given that this is a second part of a two-part video, I've decided to shorten the introduction. So, you're looking at the Understanding the IPCC webpage here, which is on Meetup. Please feel free to check it out and join us if you wish.
Organized by. Link. Share. Image. Question mark. Public group.
That's me. And
back.
The quote
Dimmed.
by Carl Sagan
Button.
from his Broke His Brain
Reader available.
1979
Reader
Pulitzer
available.
Prize winning book. I'm foregoing, as I said, only because this is a two-part of a single video. So if you want to hear it, which is it's really good, listen to part 1.
Search Wikipedia. Carl Sagan.
That's the man.
Heading level 1. Main.
And I'll point out the
Landmark.
popularization of science in the sense of making it more accessible to the general public is what he was going on about, and which I am trying to do here.
Back. Reader available. Reader available. Viewfinder. HD. Timer. Camera chooser. Back. Camera chooser. Front facing.
Good day.
One face. Large
Oh,
face.
I forgot about that part.
Face near right edge. Voiceover off.
This is Climate Change 2014, Impacts, Adaptation, and Vulnerability, the second part. We're doing something a bit different here because these reports keep getting longer and longer, and it has to stop somewhere. This bloody report, Impacts, Adaptation, Vulnerability from 2014, is 1,800 pages. Clearly we can't be going over an 1,800-page report. The accessibility of this material is important to me in conjunction with its usability and its credibility, which is those are sort of the three founding bases for what I'm trying to do. Consequently, I'm dividing this into 3 sections: the introduction, a visual part, and an oral part. And I'm breaking it in half. The visual elements are for the sighted, obviously. The introduction and the oral parts are for everybody, but the oral part is very long, 3 hours in fact, and that's why I've divided it in half. The first part and what you're watching is the second part. The previous presentations explain the context and foundations of what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to go over all that again. However,
Voiceover on. Landscape. App switcher. Camera. Closing cap. Safari. Close Safari. Activate. Safari. Back. Dimmed. Button.
so this is the YouTube channel on which the previous videos are available.
Barefoot Freelance website. 4
Nope,
0
that's not
3
what it is. This is
2
my,
1 0 1 0 4
this
1.
is a talking game. This
Link.
is the business that I'm using to bracket this video presentation. It's a diversity and inclusion business that I'm running.
A talking game
However,
YouTube channel.
on it,
Link. Reader
there's
available.
a talking game
Alert.
YouTube channel.
Open in YouTube.
Nope.
Open. Open. Cancel.
I don't want to open it in YouTube. I want to open
Cancel.
it in Safari. So
Button.
Now this
Why to do it? YouTube.
This is
Link.
the YouTube channel on which the
Action
previous
menu.
videos are.
Why to do it? Number 4.
Number 4.
Action menu. What to do? Number 3.
Number 3.
The IPs. Action. Action. Show. Show more.
Show more.
Indigenous white. Action. Action menu. Who they are. Number 1. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and their 2018 synthesis report.
Of these reports.
Heading level 4. Link. Action menu. Understanding the IPCC. Calgary. Vertical line. DIY Save the World. Indigenous whiteness. Action Introduction from Action menu. Who they are. Number 1. Action menu. Introduction from Indigenous whiteness.
Oh, where's number 2?
Heading level 4. Action. Who they are. Number 1. What to do. Number 3. Action. Why to do it. Number 4.
Well,
2000. Upload. More uploads.
Hopefully.
Heading level. Page 2 of 2. Action menu. Introduction from it. Who they are. Action menu. Shows pop-up. Who they are. Number 1.
Hopefully you can find number 2.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and their 2018 synthesis report. Heading level 4.
So feel free to check these out. These are the previous videos and
Action menu. Why to do it. Number 4.
Number
2014 Working Group 2 Report on Climate Change Impacts, Adaptation and Vulnerability. Heading level 4.
That's the first part of this report, and I'm going to leave it now because you've heard all you need to hear about this.
Back. Dimmed. Button.
So if you're starting with the video that you're watching right now, it's not a great idea. You should probably check out some of those other ones because they'll be much more useful to you.
App Switcher. Files. Files. Browse.
Oh, actually, I want to show you something else first.
App Switcher. Books. Active. Edit.
So,
Button.
this report, Climate Change 2014, Impacts, Adaptation, and Vulnerability, these are the chapters from that book. You'll see that there's
3 freshwater resources.
48 of them listed.
Page 3 of 7.
Pardon me.
15 adaptation. Page 4 of 7. Page 5 of 7.
2 of these are from me. The 47, I think, or 46 are their chapters themselves. So we're going through chapters.
Page 6 of 7. Index. IP. Annex IV. 27 Central. 26 North America.
Well, you see, actually.
Lankao. 12%
So we're going
finished.
through the section part,
Button.
second part here, which is the regional section, because the first part is the global section, and we don't have 6 years to go through these in video form. So to make this more clear what we're doing,
App Switcher. Safari.
I've created an
Active.
index.
Safari. Files. Files. New folder. Button. Selected. Name. Button. 1 of new folder. Search. Select. Australasia. Central. Europe. North America. Small Isle. The Ocean. WGII index. Selected.
So what this
Favorites.
is,
Expanded. Done. Button.
it is an index of the chapters that we're going through, and it's so that should you not want to sit through me having this read through all the executive summaries of the 10 chapters, in this case it's 5, I think this time, you can use this index to move ahead. So, for example,
WGI markup. Share. Climate Change. Working Group 2. Index. Part B regional notes equals 24 pages at approximately 7:15/full page.
so yeah, it's about 7 1/4 minutes per page as it reads it, and this is part B because it's the regional section. So for example,
Accurate timings will be available after
Yes,
recording and YouTube
and I'll
comments.
be putting accurate timings later.
The first part. Africa Chapter 22. 3 PGS.
So notice, so Africa, it says chapter 22, but I'm putting these in alphabetical order to make it easier for you to follow along as we're going through. So this is the first part. We'll go to the second part.
Page 2 of 2. WGI done button.
Well, maybe we will.
Small Islands Chapter
There.
29, 2 PGS.
Small Islands is 2 pages. So what that tells you is that if you're
Polar
in
Regions Chapter
if
28,
you're in
2 PGS.
polar regions, which is 2 pages, then and you want to get to small islands, you'll have to skip ahead 15 minutes in the video. And I will have accurate readings in the comments of the video when I'm done. Also, I'll point out, as I always do, that the comments have very detailed accreditation of all the documents, how to get to their web page, how to download them, and even the accreditation of the reports. So I cover all of that, and as I said, and I tell you the exact times of the different chapters once I finish this recording, which clearly I haven't finished. So in keeping with what I said about accessibility, if you're checking this out visually, you may want to take a screen capture of this page, of the index, so you can access it later on when you're 2 chapters in and you're wondering what comes after North America. Is it polar or small islands? No, in fact it's ocean, just as a point of interest. And I will have this read through for people who are following this by listening.
Small Islands Chapter 20, 3 of 3 white, 20, WGII, markup, share, Climate Change 2014, impacts, adaptation and vulnerability. Working Group 2. Index, Part B regional notes equals 24 pages at approximately 7:15/full page. Accurate timings will be available after recording and YouTube comments. The first part, 10 PGS. Africa Chapter 22, 3 PGS. Asia Chapter 24, 2 PGS. Australasia Chapter 25, 3 PGS. Central and South America Chapter 27, 2 PGS. The second part, 14 PGS. Europe Chapter 23, 3 PGS. North America Chapter 26, 3 PGS. Ocean Chapter 30, 4 PGS. Polar Regions Chapter 28, 2 PGS. Small Islands Chapter 29, 2 PGS.
So that's the index. Hope you made notes or took a screen capture. I will show it later once.
Done. Button. Done. Button. Done. Browse. Heading. WGII impact. Graphic. Search. Graphics. Graphics. Heading. Africa. Central South. Europe. 5 items. Folder. Selected. Browse. Heading. App switcher. Safari. Books. Active.
So I will go through the introduction
24 Asia. Y.
that I created before.
Page 3 of 7.
Oh, sorry.
Page 4 of 7. Page 5 of 7. 27 cent. Annex 3 Act. Errata. Front matter part A. Front matter part A. Library. Button. The Working Group 2 Preface. Preface. The Working Group 2 Contribution to the 5th Assessment Report of the The Working Group 2 Contribution to the 5th Assessment Report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC WGII AR5, considers climate change impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability. It provides a comprehensive, up-to-date picture of the current state of knowledge and level of certainty, based on the available scientific, technical, and socio-economic literature. As with all IPCC products, the report is the result of an assessment process designed to highlight both big-picture messages and key details, to integrate knowledge from diverse disciplines, to evaluate the strength of evidence underlying findings, and to identify topics where understanding is incomplete. The focus of the assessment is providing information to support good decisions by stakeholders at all levels. The assessment is a unique source of background for decision support, while scrupulously avoiding advocacy for particular policy options. Scope of the report. Climate change impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability span a vast range of topics. With the deepening of knowledge about climate change, we see connections in expanding and diverse areas, activities, and assets at risk. Early research focused on direct impacts of temperature and rainfall on humans, crops, and wild plants and animals. New evidence points to the importance of understanding not only these direct impacts but also potential indirect impacts, including impacts that can be transmitted around the world through trade, travel, and security. As a consequence, few aspects of the human endeavor or of natural ecosystem processes are isolated from possible impacts in a changing climate. The interconnectedness of the Earth system makes it impossible to draw a confined boundary around climate change impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability. This report does not attempt to bound the issue. Instead, it focuses on core elements and identifies connecting points where the issue of climate change overlaps with or merges into other issues. The report is published in two parts. Part A covers global-scale topics for a wide range of sectors, covering physical, biological, and human systems. Part B considers the same topics, but from a regional perspective, exploring the issues that arise from the juxtaposition of climate change, environment, and available resources. Conceptually, there is some overlap between the material in parts A and B, but the contrast in framing makes each part uniquely relevant to a particular group of stakeholders. For setting context, library button. Library. Front matter part B, page 7 of WGIN volume T SPM summary for policymakers. Library button. Library button. Library back button.
I forgot to mention something in awareness of the accessibility side of what I'm doing. I will try to remember to always allow the chapter headings to be read without cutting them off, so that people following by listening will know where we are, because I do know, because I'm legally blind, it's very easy to get lost in the huge volume of stuff. So I will always play the heading every time I change where I'm going. Yes.
SPM summary for policymakers. C.
Like that.
P. F. SPM summary for policymakers. Library. Bookmarks. Human interference with the climate system is occurring. 1. And climate change poses risks for human and natural systems. Figure SPM 1. The assessment of impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability in the Working Group 2 contribution to the IPCC's 5th Assessment Report, WGIAR5, evaluates how patterns of risks and potential benefits are shifting due to climate change. It considers how impacts and risks related to climate change can be reduced and managed through adaptation and mitigation. The report assesses needs, options, opportunities, constraints, resilience, limits, and other aspects associated with adaptation. Climate change involves complex interactions and changing likelihoods of diverse impacts. A focus on risk, which is new in this report, supports decision-making in the context of climate change and complements other elements of the report. People and societies may perceive or rank risks and potential benefits differently, given diverse values and goals. Compare Section 1.2.1 SPM Summary for Assessing and Impacts, Emissions and Figure SPM 1 vertical line illustration of the core concepts of the WGIAR5. Risk of climate-related impacts results from the interaction of climate-related hazards, including hazardous events and trends, with the vulnerability and exposure of human and natural systems. Changes in both the climate system, left, and socio-economic processes including adaptation and mitigation, right, are drivers of hazards, exposure, and vulnerability. 19.2, Figure 19, 1. 1249. Status bar, library, button. Library, SPM summary for page 6 of page 5 of page 4 of page 3 of page 1 of 7.
seems relevant to point out now, while you're looking at this
Page 3 of 7.
vast quantity of documents,
Page 1 of 7.
I always mention extensively, before, after, and in the middle, that all of this stuff is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change material. I've downloaded it directly from their website, which is, I think we saw it. Did we see it yet? Let's have a look.
App Switcher. Book. Safari. Active. Safari. AR5 Climate Change 2014.
There it is. This
Impacts.
place.
Adaptation.
And vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Heading level 1.
This is their website. All of this material is available online. I've downloaded all of it. As you could see from the books section, there's a ton of chapters with this particular report. You get access to all of their published reports back to 1989, I think is the first one, on this site. I don't change the formatting of the reports. I don't knock out words or punctuation. I do skip around, as you've noticed, because there's way too much material to go through it longitudinally, and I have to find stuff that I think will create a relevant picture of what they're trying to do, and so that's why I do it this way. But all this material is theirs.
Back.
Oops,
Dimmed.
no.
Button. App Switcher. Files. File. Books. Active. Books. Library. 6 Ocean Systems. Page 1 of 8.
Which is also why I try to leave the titles, I make the titles available so you can
2
find this stuff.
Foundations for Decision Making. R. N.
Chapter
Jones.
2 from
41%
this report.
finished. Button.
That's the title of Chapter 2.
2 Foundations for
Now in
Library.
Part 1 I actually
Button.
had it read this page because it's a very useful and descriptive explanation of how they interpret and incorporate decision making into the report. In the interests of brevity and the fact that I've already done it once, I'm not going to have it read again.
3 of 3. 2 Foundations for Decision Making.
Right,
Heading.
that's the chapter. Again, if you want to hear the full introduction, go to the first part of this report on the video, and it goes through all of this.
1252. Status bar. Library. Button. Library. Back button. 2 Foundations for Decision. Page 2 of page 3 of 7. Page 4 of 23 Europe. S. 22 Africa.
So
23 Europe.
notice again, I'm not going through the
12% finished.
chapters
Button.
in numerical order. I'm going through them in alphabetical order so that when we're in them, you can figure out where we're going next, perhaps. So Europe is the first one.
23 Europe. Library. Button. App Switcher. Books. Files. Active. Actions available.
I'm sorry, that was the right
File.
place to be.
Safari.
Books.
Books. Active. Books.
So if you have
Books.
that index
Library.
happy, if you have that index
Observed
handy,
climate trend. Executive 23. Bookmark. Search. Markup. 23 Europe.
here's the title.
Heading. Mark. Search. Bookmarks. 23. Executive summary. Observed climate trends and future climate projections show regionally varying changes in temperature and rainfall in Europe. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.2.2 right curly bracket in agreement with fourth assessment report, AR4, findings. With projected increases in temperature throughout Europe and increasing precipitation in northern Europe and decreasing precipitation in southern Europe, left curly bracket 23.2.2 right curly bracket climate, projections show a marked increase in high temperature extremes, high confidence, meteorological droughts, medium confidence, left curly bracket 23.2.3 right curly bracket and heavy precipitation events, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.2.2.3 right curly bracket with variations across Europe, and small or no changes in wind speed extremes, low confidence, except increases in winter wind speed extremes over Central and Northern Europe, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.2.3 2.3 right curly bracket. Observed climate change in Europe has had wide-ranging effects throughout the European region, including the distribution, phenology, and abundance of animal, fish, and plant species. High confidence, left curly bracket 23.6.45, table 23, 6 right curly bracket, stagnating wheat yields in some subregions, medium confidence, limited evidence, left curly bracket 23.4.1 right curly bracket, and forest decline in some subregions, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Climate change has affected both human health, from increased heat waves, medium confidence, left curly bracket 23.5.1 right curly bracket, and animal health, changes in infectious diseases, high confidence, left curly bracket 23.4.2 right curly bracket. There is less evidence of impacts on social systems attributable to observed climate change, except in pastoralist populations, low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.5.3 right curly bracket. Climate change will increase the likelihood of systemic failures across European countries caused by extreme climate events affecting multiple sectors, medium confidence, left curly bracket 23.2.2.3, 23.2.3, 23.36. 23.9.1 right curly bracket. Extreme weather events currently have significant impacts in Europe in multiple economic sectors as well as adverse social and health effects, high confidence. Left curly bracket table 23, 1 right curly bracket. There is limited evidence that resilience to heat waves and fires has improved in Europe, medium confidence, left curly bracket 23.9.1. 23.5 right curly bracket. While some countries have improved their flood protection following major flood events, left curly bracket 23.9.1, 23.7.3 right curly bracket. Climate change is very likely to increase the frequency and intensity of heat waves, particularly in southern Europe, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.2.2 right curly bracket, with mostly adverse implications for health, agriculture, forestry, energy production and use, transport, tourism, labor productivity, and the built environment. Left curly bracket 23.3.24, 23.3.6, 23.4.14, 23.5.1, table 23, 1 right curly bracket. The provision of ecosystem services is projected to decline across all service categories in response to climate change in southern Europe, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.9.1, box 23, 1 right curly bracket. Both gains and losses in the provision of ecosystem services are projected for the other European subregions, high confidence, but the provision of cultural services is projected to decline in the continental, northern, and southern subregions, low confidence. Left curly bracket box 23, 1 right curly bracket. Climate change is expected to impede economic activity in southern Europe more than in other subregions, medium confidence, left curly bracket 23.9.1, table 23, 4 right curly bracket, and may increase future intra-regional disparity, low confidence, left curly bracket 23.9.1 right curly bracket. There are also important differences in vulnerability within subregions, for example, plant species and some economic sectors are most vulnerable in high mountain areas due to lack of adaptation options, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.9.1 right curly bracket. Southern Europe is particularly vulnerable to climate change, high confidence, as multiple sectors will be adversely affected: tourism, agriculture, forestry, infrastructure, energy, population health, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.9, table 23, 4 right curly bracket. The impacts of sea level rise on populations and infrastructure in coastal regions can be reduced by adaptation, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.1, 23.5.3 right curly bracket. Populations in urban areas are particularly vulnerable to climate change impacts because of the high density of people and built infrastructure, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3, 23.5.1 right curly bracket. Synthesis of evidence across sectors and sub-regions confirm that there are limits to adaptation from physical, social, economic, and technological factors. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.7. Table 23. 3 right curly bracket adaptation is further impeded because climate change affects multiple sectors. Left curly bracket 23.7 right curly bracket. The majority of published assessments are based on climate projections in the range 1 degree Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius global mean temperature per century. Limited evidence exists regarding the potential impacts in Europe under high rates of warming, greater than 4 degrees Celsius global mean temperature per century. Left curly bracket 23.9.1 right curly bracket. Chapter 23 Europe. 1270. Europe Chapter 23. Impacts by sector. Sea level rise. Impacts by sector.
So, as I described
App switcher.
in the first
Books.
part,
Safari. File. Set. Files.
I'm trying to incorporate some visuals into
Files.
this so that
Browse.
people watching won't be
New folder.
will
Button. Table
less
23-1.
completely bored.
August 30th. Box 23. List view. Tags. Button. List view. Box 23-1. August 30th. 2020 at. Selected. Selected. Box 23-1. August 30th. 2000. Done. Button.
I can't coordinate the images with the text as it's being read. That's just too much of a NASA operation. So instead, I'm just going to go through them numerically and show each one for a few seconds. If you want to look at the image, feel free to stop the video, have a gander for 10 minutes, or even better, I recommend at this point, this is when I do my usual recommendation of taking a break, because 20 minutes in, and we're certainly past that, is far past your attention span maximum. So it might be worth getting a drink of water or a tea, coffee, cookie, breath of air, go outside for a smoke or a walk or something, come back, and we'll still be here.
App switcher. Safari.
Well,
Active.
we will if you stop the video, of course.
Safari. Books. Active. Climate change is sea level rise and increase. Impacts by sector. Impacts by sector. Sea level rise and increases in extreme rainfall are projected to further increase coastal and river flood risk in Europe and, without adaptive measures, will substantially increase flood damages, people affected and economic losses. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.1, 23.5.1 right curly bracket adaptation can prevent most of the projected damages. High confidence. Based on medium evidence. High agreement. But there may be constraints to building flood defenses in some areas. Left curly bracket 23.3.1, 23.7.1 right curly bracket direct economic river flood damages in Europe have increased over recent decades. High confidence. But this increase is due to development in flood zones and not due to observed climate change. Left curly bracket 23.3.1.2. SREX 4.5 right curly bracket some areas in Europe show changes in river flood occurrence related to observed changes in extreme river discharge. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.2.3 right curly bracket. Climate change is projected to affect the impacts of hot and cold weather extremes on transport, leading to economic damage and or adaptation costs, as well as some benefits, e.g. reduction of maintenance costs during winter. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.3 right curly bracket climate change is projected to reduce severe accidents in road transport. Medium confidence, and adversely affect inland water transport in summer and some rivers, e.g. the Rhine, after 2050. Medium confidence. Damages to rail infrastructure from high temperatures may also increase. Medium confidence. Adaptation through maintenance and operational measures can reduce adverse impacts to some extent. 23. Climate change is expected to affect future energy production and transmission. left curly bracket 23.3.4 right curly bracket hydropower production is likely to decrease in all sub-regions except Scandinavia, high confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 23.3.4 right curly bracket climate change is unlikely to affect wind energy production before 2050, medium confidence, but will have a negative impact in summer and a varied impact in winter after 2050, medium confidence. Climate change is likely to decrease thermal power production during summer, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.4 right curly bracket climate change will increase the problems associated with overheating in buildings, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.2 right curly bracket although climate change is very likely to decrease space heating demand, high confidence, cooling demand will increase, very high confidence. Although income growth mostly drives projected cooling demand up to 2050, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.4 right curly bracket more energy efficient buildings and cooling systems as well as demand side management will reduce future energy demands. Left curly bracket 23.3.4 right curly bracket. After 2050, tourism activity is projected to decrease in Southern Europe low confidence, and increase in Northern and Continental Europe medium confidence. No significant impacts on the tourism sector are projected before 2050 in winter or summer tourism except for ski tourism in low altitude sites and under limited adaptation, medium confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 23.3.6 right curly bracket artificial snowmaking may prolong the activity of some ski resorts, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.6 right curly bracket. Climate change is likely to increase cereal yields in Northern Europe medium confidence, disagreement, but decrease yields in Southern Europe high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.1 right curly bracket in Northern Europe. Climate change is very likely to extend the seasonal activity of pests and plant diseases, high confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 23.4.1 right curly bracket yields of some arable crop species like wheat have been negatively affected by observed warming in some European countries since the 1980s, medium confidence, limited evidence. Dart, left curly bracket 23.4.1 right curly bracket compared to AR4, new evidence regarding future yields in Northern Europe is less consistent regarding the magnitude and sign of change. Climate change may adversely affect dairy production in Southern Europe because of heat stress in lactating cows, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.2 right curly bracket climate change has contributed to vector-borne disease in ruminants in Europe high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.2 right curly bracket and northward expansion of tick disease vectors, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.2, 23.5.1 right curly bracket. Climate change will increase irrigation needs, high confidence, but future irrigation will be constrained by reduced runoff, demand from other sectors, and by economic costs. Left curly bracket 23.4.1, 23.4.3 right curly bracket by the 2050s. Irrigation will not be sufficient to prevent damage from heat waves to crops in some sub-regions, medium confidence. System costs will increase under all climate scenarios, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.3 right curly bracket integrated management of water, also across countries' boundaries, is needed to address future competing demands among agriculture, energy, conservation, and human settlements. Left curly bracket 23.7.2 right curly bracket 1271. 23. As a result of increased evaporative demand, climate change is likely to see 23. App switcher. Safari. Files. Active. Files. Done. Button. Done. Item list. Button. Dismiss. Table box 20 table 23-1 done button.
So I hope these images are useful. Obviously as for people who are listening to this, I can't tell you anything about these images, so you're on your own. I'm afraid you'll have to find someone who can describe them to you, because I don't have a clue. They could be pictures of people sitting in melting snow in Europe. I don't have a clue. However,
item list button.
There's one of them.
Table 23 dash item list but box table 23 dash 3 JPEG image. Done.
It's interesting to note that a couple of these chapters, as I noticed in the first part, have got more images in the executive summary as opposed to other sections that have none. So here's the second one. I'm going to work through these as we go through the text, and when I start the text running, if you'll excuse me, I'll go feed my cat, who is apparently dying. Poor creature.
App switcher, Safari, active, Safari, files, doc, setting, map, books, active. Climate as a result of increased evaporative demand, climate change is likely to significantly reduce water availability from river abstraction and from groundwater resources. Medium confidence, in the context of increased demand, from agriculture, energy and industry, and domestic use, and cross-sectoral implications that are not fully understood. Left curly bracket 23.4.3, 23.9.1 right curly bracket. Some adaptation is possible through uptake of more water, efficient technologies and water-saving strategies. Left curly bracket 23.4.3, 23.7.2 right curly bracket. Climate change will change the geographic distribution of wine grape varieties, high confidence, and this will reduce the value of wine products and the livelihoods of local wine communities in southern and continental Europe. Medium confidence, and increase production in northern Europe. Low confidence, left curly bracket 23.4.1, 23.3.5, 23.5.4, box 23. 2 right curly bracket. Some adaptation is possible through technologies and good practice. Left curly bracket box 23, 2 right curly bracket. Climate warming will increase forest productivity in northern Europe. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Although damage from pests and diseases in all sub-regions will increase due to climate change. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Wildfire risk in southern Europe. High confidence, and damages from storms in central Europe. Low confidence, may also increase due to climate change. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Climate change is likely to cause ecological and socio-economic damages from shifts in forest tree species range, from southwest to northeast. Medium confidence, and in pest species distributions. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Forest management measures can enhance ecosystem resilience. Medium confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 23.4.4 right curly bracket. Observed warming has shifted marine fish species ranges to higher latitudes. High confidence, and reduced body size in species. Medium confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 23.4.6 right curly bracket. There is limited and diverging evidence on climate change impacts on net fisheries economic turnover. Local economic impacts attributable to climate change will depend on the market value of high temperature tolerant invasive species. Left curly bracket 23.4.6 right curly bracket. Climate change is unlikely to entail relocation of fishing fleets. High confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 23.4.6 right curly bracket. Observed higher water temperatures have adversely affected both wild and farmed freshwater salmon production in the southern part of their distribution. High confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 23.4.6 right curly bracket. High temperatures may increase the frequency of harmful algal blooms. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.6 right curly bracket. Climate change will affect bioenergy cultivation patterns in Europe by shifting northward their potential area of production. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.5 right curly bracket. Elevated atmospheric carbon dioxide, CO2, can improve drought tolerance of bioenergy crop species due to improved plant water use, maintaining high yields in future climate scenarios in temperate regions. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.5 right curly bracket. Climate change is likely to affect human health in Europe. Heat-related deaths and injuries are likely to increase, particularly in southern Europe. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.5.1 right curly bracket. Climate change may change the distribution and seasonal pattern of some human infections, including those transmitted by arthropods, medium confidence, and increase the risk of introduction of new infectious diseases, low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.5.1 right curly bracket. Climate change and sea level rise may damage European cultural heritage, including buildings, local industries, landscapes, archaeological sites, and iconic places. Medium confidence, and some cultural landscapes may be lost forever. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.5.4, table 23, 3 right curly bracket. Climate change may adversely affect background levels of tropospheric ozone. Low confidence, limited evidence, low agreement, assuming no change in emissions, but the implications for future particulate pollution, which is more health damaging, are very uncertain. Left curly bracket 23.6.1 right curly bracket. Higher temperatures may have affected trends in ground level tropospheric ozone. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.1 right curly bracket. Climate change is likely to decrease surface water quality due to higher temperatures and changes in precipitation patterns. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.3 right curly bracket, and is likely to increase soil salinity in coastal regions. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.2 right curly bracket. Climate change may also increase soil erosion from increased extreme events, and reduce soil fertility. Low confidence, limited evidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.2 right curly bracket. Chapter 23 Europe. 1272. Europe Chapter 23. Observed climate change is affecting Europe Chapter 23. App switch. Safari. Files. Active. Files. Done. Button. Item list. Table 23-3. Item list. Table 23-1. Table 23-4. Table 23-6. Table 23-4. Select done. Button.
It's a lot of information. Yeah, you have nothing to complain about. Stop sticking. This is Katie, by the way. Katie the kitty. Fur-covered monster of incredible autocratic designs. She wants to rule the world.
App switcher. Safari. Books. Active. Observed Europe Chapter 23. Europe Chapter 23. Observed climate change is affecting a wide range of flora and fauna, including plant pests and diseases. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.1, 23.4.4, 23.6.4 right curly bracket, and the disease vectors and hosts. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.4.2 right curly bracket. Climate change is very likely to cause changes in habitats and species, with local extinctions, high confidence, and continental scale shifts in species distributions. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.4 right curly bracket. The habitat of alpine plants is very likely to be significantly reduced. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.4 right curly bracket. Phenological mismatch will constrain both terrestrial and marine ecosystem functioning under climate change. High confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.45 right curly bracket. With a reduction in some ecosystem services. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.4, box 23, 1 right curly bracket. The introduction and expansion of invasive species, especially those with high migration rates, from outside Europe is likely to increase with climate change. Medium confidence. left curly bracket 23.6.4 right curly bracket climate change is likely to entail the loss or displacement of coastal wetlands. High confidence, left curly bracket 23.6.5 right curly bracket climate change threatens the effectiveness of European conservation areas, low confidence. Left curly bracket 23.6.4 right curly bracket and stresses the need for habitat connectivity through specific conservation policies, left curly bracket 23.6.4 right curly bracket. Adaptation. The capacity to adapt in Europe is high compared to other world regions, but there are important differences in impacts and in the capacity to respond between and within the European sub-regions. In Europe, adaptation policy has been developed at international, European Union, national, and local government levels, left curly bracket 23.7 right curly bracket including the prioritization of adaptation options. There is limited systematic information on current implementation or effectiveness of adaptation measures or policies, left curly bracket box 23, 3 right curly bracket some adaptation planning has been integrated into coastal and water management, as well as disaster risk management, left curly bracket 23.7.13 right curly bracket there is limited evidence of adaptation planning in rural development or land use planning, left curly bracket 23.7.45 right curly bracket. Adaptation will incur a cost, estimated from detailed bottom-up sector-specific studies for coastal defenses, energy production, energy use, and agriculture. Left curly bracket 23.7.6 right curly bracket the costs of adapting buildings, houses, schools, hospitals, and upgrading flood defenses increase under all scenarios relative to no climate change, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.3.2 right curly bracket some impacts will be unavoidable owing to limits, physical, technological, social, economic, or political. Left curly bracket 23.7.7, table 23, 3 right curly bracket. There is also emerging evidence regarding opportunities and unintended consequences of policies, strategies, and measures that address adaptation and or mitigation goals. Left curly bracket 23.8 right curly bracket some agricultural practices can reduce greenhouse gas, GHG, emissions and also increase resilience of crops to temperature and rainfall variability. Left curly bracket 23.8.2 right curly bracket there is evidence for unintended consequences of mitigation policies in the built environment, especially dwellings, and energy sector, medium confidence. Left curly bracket 23.8.1 right curly bracket low carbon policies in the transport and energy sectors to reduce emissions are associated with large benefits to human health, high confidence. Left curly bracket 23.8.3 right curly bracket 1273. 23. 23. 23.1. Introduction. This chapter, library, button. Library, back button.
And there is one more image from that chapter.
App switcher, Safari, files. Table 23-4, share, table item list, button. Table 23-4, table 23-6, JPEG image, done, button.
I'll point out, as I did in the first couple of videos, that the IPCC itself, in a panel that they had, some of the members didn't like how complex their images were because they figured they're incomprehensible and debatable, and I'm including them simply so that you can, as I said, you can pause the video, stare at it for 20 minutes, get a glass of wine, consider it modern art, whatever you wish.
App switcher, Safari, books, active. Books, library, 27 Central and 26 North America, p.
So, I will point out, as I did in the first part,
North America, p.
that
Library,
attention spans
button.
max out around 20 to 25 minutes, well, 20 minutes really.
North America overview. Executive
In
summary.
any event, I'll point out that the chapter we just went through would have taken over 20 minutes to go through, so now might be a good time to intake something that will benefit your further intake, whether it's water or sugar or caffeine or nicotine or motion or, I don't know, meditate for a moment. Whatever works, I would recommend you do it now. And now I'm going to continue.
North America bookmark search markup 26 North America mark search bookmark executive summary overview. North America's climate has changed and some societally relevant changes have been attributed to anthropogenic causes. Very high confidence. Dart left curly bracket figure 26 1 right curly bracket recent climate changes and individual extreme events demonstrate both impacts of climate-related stresses and vulnerabilities of exposed systems. Very high confidence. Dart left curly bracket figure 26 2 right curly bracket observed climate trends in North America include an increased occurrence of severe hot weather events over much of the USA, decreases in frost days, and increases in heavy precipitation over much of North America. High confidence. Dart left curly bracket 26 dot 2 dot 2 dot 1 right curly bracket the attribution of observed changes to anthropogenic causes has been established for some climate and physical systems, e.g. earlier peak flow of snowmelt runoff and declines in the amount of water stored in spring snowpack and snow-dominated streams and areas of western USA and Canada. Very high confidence. Dart left curly bracket figure 26 1 right curly bracket evidence of anthropogenic climatic influence on ecosystems, agriculture, water resources, infrastructure, and urban and rural settlements is less clearly established, though, in many areas, these sectors exhibit substantial sensitivity to climate variability. High confidence. Left curly bracket 26.3.12, 26.4.2.12, 26.4.3.1, 26.5.1, 26.7.1.1, 26.7.2, 26.8.1, figure 26, 2, box 26, 3 right curly bracket. Many climate stresses that carry risk, particularly related to severe heat, heavy precipitation, and declining snowpack, will increase in frequency and or severity in North America in the next decades. Very high confidence. Global warming of approximately 2 degrees Celsius, above the pre-industrial baseline, is very likely to lead to more frequent extreme heat events and daily precipitation extremes over most areas of North America, more frequent low snow years, and shifts toward earlier snowmelt runoff over much of the western USA and Canada. Left curly bracket 26, dot, 2, dot, 2, dot, 2 right curly bracket together with climate hazards such as higher sea levels and associated storm surges, more intense droughts, and increased precipitation variability. These changes are projected to lead to increased stresses to water, agriculture, economic activities, and urban and rural settlements. High confidence. Dart left curly bracket 26.3.2, 26.5.2, 26.7.1.2, 26.8.3 right curly bracket global warming of approximately 4 degrees Celsius is very likely to cause larger changes in extreme heat events, daily scale, precipitation extremes and snow accumulation and runoff, as well as emergence of a locally novel temperature regime throughout North America. Left curly bracket 26, dot, 2, dot, 2, dot, 2 right curly bracket this higher level of global temperature change is likely to cause decreases in annual precipitation over much of the southern half of the continent and increases in annual precipitation over much of the northern half of the continent. Left curly bracket 26, dot, 2, dot, 2, dot, 2 right curly bracket the higher level of warming would present additional and substantial risks and adaptation challenges across a range of sectors. High confidence. left curly bracket 26.3.3, 26.5.2, 26.6.2, 26.7.2.2, 26.8.3 right curly bracket. We highlight below key findings on impacts, vulnerabilities, projections, and adaptation responses relevant to specific North American sectors, ecosystems, water, agriculture, human health, urban and rural settlements, infrastructure, and the economy. We then highlight challenges and opportunities for adaptation, and future risks and adaptive capacity for 3 key climate-related risks. Sector-specific climate risks and adaptation opportunities. 26. North American ecosystems are under increasing stress from rising temperatures, carbon dioxide, CO2, concentrations, and sea levels, and are particularly vulnerable to climate extremes, very high confidence. Climate stresses occur alongside other anthropogenic influences on ecosystems, including land use changes, non-native species, and pollution, and in many cases will exacerbate these pressures, very high confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 26.4.1, 26.4.3 right curly bracket. Evidence since the 4th Assessment Report, AR4, highlights increased ecosystem vulnerability to multiple and interacting climate stresses in forest ecosystems, through wildfire activity, regional drought, high temperatures, and infestations. Medium confidence, left curly bracket 26.4.2.1, box 26, 2 right curly bracket, and in coastal zones due to increasing temperatures, ocean acidification, coral reef bleaching, increased sediment load in runoff, sea level rise, SLR, storms, and storm surges, high confidence, left curly bracket 26.4.3.1 right curly bracket. In the near term, conservation and adaptation practices can buffer against climate stresses to some degree in these ecosystems, both through increasing system resilience, such as forest management to reduce vulnerability to infestation, and in reducing co-occurring non-climate stresses, such as careful oversight of fishing pressure. Medium confidence, left curly bracket 26.4.4 right curly bracket. Water resources are already stressed in many parts of North America due to non-climate change anthropogenic forces, and are expected to become further stressed due to climate change. High confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 26.3 right curly bracket. Decreases in snowpacks are already influencing seasonal stream flows. High confidence, left curly bracket 26.3.1 right curly bracket. Though indicative of future conditions, recent floods, droughts, and changes in mean flow. 1443. 26. Conditions cannot yet be attributed to climate change. Medium to high confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 26.3.12 right curly bracket. The 21st century is projected to witness decreases in water quality and in 20. Conditions cannot yet be attributed. Effects of conditions cannot yet be attributed to climate change. Medium to high confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 26.3.12 right curly bracket. The 21st century is projected to witness decreases in water quality and increases in urban drainage flooding throughout most of North America under climate change, as well as a decrease in in-stream uses such as hydropower in some regions. High confidence, left curly bracket 26.3.2.24 right curly bracket. In addition, there will be decreases in water supplies for urban areas and irrigation in North America, except in general for southern tropical Mexico, northwest coastal USA, and west coastal Canada. High to medium confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 26.3.2.1 right curly bracket. Many adaptation options currently available can address water supply deficits. Adaptation responses to flooding and water quality concerns are more limited. Medium confidence, left curly bracket 26.3.3 right curly bracket. App switcher. Safari, files. Done. Button. Done. Brow. Selected. Name. Button. Table 23-1. Box 23-1.
Nope.
August 30th. Graphics.
Graphics.
Back. Browse. Africa. Australia. Central. Europe. North America.
North America.
Selected. Browse. Figure 20. List view. Figure 1 item. Figure 26-1. Selected. Figure 26-1. August 30th. Done. Button.
I'll point out, as I mentioned in the first part of this summary, that I was not able to find all of the figures and tables that were listed in the report, in the executive summaries of the report. That's where I focused. Some because I think they've changed the labeling. I'm not sure. Of course, I can't read the actual titles of the JPEGs. So within the image, so I can't look them up. So there's only one here. There's probably more than one. In fact, I know I've heard more than one listed, but if other people can find, for example, what happened to boxes, because there's about a dozen boxes listed in these executive summaries, and I've only found a few of them. I think they've been changed maybe to figures, but I can't make that judgment, and so I don't.
App Switcher, Safari, Books, Active. Conditions cannot. 26. Condition. Effects of temperature and climate variability on yields of major crops have been observed. High confidence. Left curly bracket 25.5.1 right curly bracket projected increases in temperature, reductions in precipitation in some regions. An increased frequency of extreme events would result in net productivity declines in major North American crops by the end of the 21st century without adaptation, although the rate of decline varies by model and scenario, and some regions, particularly in the north, may benefit. Very high confidence. Left curly bracket 26.5.2 right curly bracket given that North America is a significant source of global food supplies. Projected productivity declines here may affect global food security. Medium confidence. At 2 degrees Celsius, adaptation has high potential to offset projected declines in yields for many crops, and many strategies offer mitigation co-benefits, but effectiveness of adaptation would be reduced at 4 degrees Celsius. High confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 26.5.3 right curly bracket adaptation capacity varies widely among producers, and institutional support, currently lacking. In some regions, greatly enhances adaptive potential. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 26.5.4 right curly bracket. Human health impacts from extreme climate events have been observed, although climate change-related trends and attribution have not been confirmed to date. Extreme heat events currently result in increases in mortality and morbidity in North America. Very high confidence, with impacts that vary by age, location, and socio-economic factors. High confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 26.6.1.2 right curly bracket extreme coastal storm events can cause excess mortality and morbidity, particularly along the east coast of the USA, and the Gulf Coast of both Mexico and the USA. High confidence. Left curly bracket 26.6.1.1 right curly bracket a range of water, food, and vector-borne infectious diseases, air pollutants, and airborne pollens are influenced by climate variability and change. Medium confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 26.6.1.36 right curly bracket further climate warming in North America will impose stresses on the health sector through more severe extreme events such as heat waves and coastal storms, as well as more gradual changes in climate and CO2 levels. Left curly bracket 26.6.2 right curly bracket human health impacts in North America from future climate extremes can be reduced by adaptation measures such as targeted and sustainable air conditioning, more effective warning and response systems, enhanced pollution controls, urban planning strategies, and resilient health infrastructure. High confidence. Left curly bracket 26.6.3 right curly bracket. Observed impacts on livelihoods, economic activities, infrastructure, and access to services in North American urban and rural settlements have been attributed to SLR, changes in temperature and precipitation, and occurrences of such extreme events as heat waves, droughts, and storms. High confidence. Dot, left curly bracket 26, dot, 8, dot, 2, dot, 1 right curly bracket. Differences in the severity of climate impacts on human settlements are strongly influenced by context, specific social and environmental factors and processes that contribute to risk, vulnerability, and adaptive capacity such as hazard magnitude, populations' access to assets, built environment features, and governance. High confidence. Dot, left curly bracket 26, dot, 8, dot, 2, dot, 1 2 right curly bracket. Some of these processes, e.g., the legacy of previous and current stresses, are common to urban and rural settlements, while others are more pertinent to some types of settlements than others. For example, human and capital risks are highly concentrated in some highly exposed urban locations, while in rural areas, geographic isolation and institutional deficits are key sources of vulnerability. Among the most vulnerable are indigenous peoples due to their complex relationship with their ancestral lands and higher reliance on subsistence economies. And those urban centers where high concentrations of populations and economic activities in risk-prone areas combine with several socio-economic and environmental sources of vulnerability. High confidence. Dot, left curly bracket 26, dot, 8, dot, 2, dot, 1 2 right curly bracket. Although larger urban centers would have higher adaptation capacities, future climate risks from heat waves, droughts, storms, and SLR in cities would be enhanced by high population density, inadequate infrastructures, lack of institutional capacity, and degraded natural environments. Medium evidence. High agreement. Dot, left curly bracket 26.8.3 right curly bracket. Much of North American infrastructure is currently vulnerable to extreme weather events and, unless investments are made to strengthen them, would be more vulnerable to climate change. Medium confidence. Water resources and transportation infrastructure are in many cases deteriorating, thus more vulnerable to extremes than strengthened ones. High confidence. Extreme events have caused significant damage to infrastructure in many parts of North America. Risks to infrastructure are particularly acute in Mexico but are a big concern in all three countries. High confidence. Dot, left curly bracket 26.7 right curly bracket. Chapter 26 North America. 1444. North America Chapter 26. Most sectors of the North America Chapter 26. App Switcher. Safari. Files.
So as I
Active.
mentioned, this chapter
Files.
only listed
Done. Button.
one figure
Done. Browse.
for
Heading.
North America.
Search. Graphics. Back. Graph.
So I'm going to
Browse.
take advantage of this moment.
Africa. North. Small. The ocean. W. A item. WGI. Selected.
To once again revisit.
Done. Button.
Well, not again. Anyways, to revisit the index, so you can remind yourself where you are and how we got here and where we're going.
Working index. Asia, Central and the second part. 14 PGS. The second part. 14 PGS.
14 pages.
Europe Chapter 23. 3 PGS.
Did that?
North America Chapter 26. 3 PGS.
We're doing that.
Ocean Chapter 30. 4 PGS.
Next.
Polar Regions Chapter 28, 2 PGS. Small Islands Chapter 29, 2 PGS.
And that's the last one. And then we'll be done.
Done. Button. Brown. Africa. Australia. North America. Small Islands. 4 items. The Ocean. 10. Selected. Browse. Heading. Edit. Location. iCloud. CCCR. List view. CCCR. Selected. CCCR. August. Done. Button. Apps. Safari. Books. Active. Books. Adaptation responsive. Bookmarks. North America Chapter 26. Most sectors of the North American economy have been affected by and have responded to extreme weather, including hurricanes, flooding, and intense rainfall. High confidence. Dart, left curly bracket figure 26, to right curly bracket. Despite a growing experience with reactive adaptation, there are few examples of proactive adaptation anticipating future climate change impacts. And these are largely found in sectors with longer-term decision-making, including energy and public infrastructure. Knowledge about lessons learned and best adaptive practices by industry sector are not well documented in the published literature. Left curly bracket 26.7 right curly bracket. There is an emerging concern that dislocation in one sector of the economy may have an adverse impact on other sectors as a result of supply chain interdependency. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 26.7 right curly bracket. Slow onset perils, such as SLR, drought, and permafrost thaw, are an emerging concern for some sectors, with large regional variation in awareness and adaptive capacity. Medium confidence. Adaptation responses. Adaptation, including through technological innovation, institutional strengthening, economic diversification, and infrastructure design, can help to reduce risks in the current climate, and to manage future risks in the face of climate change. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 26.8.4, 26.9.2 right curly bracket. There is increasing attention to adaptation among planners at all levels of government, but particularly at the municipal level, with many jurisdictions engaging in assessment and planning processes. These efforts have revealed the significant challenges and sources of resistance facing planners at both the planning and implementation stages, particularly the adequacy of informational, institutional, financial, and human resources, and lack of political will. Medium confidence. Left curly bracket 26.8.4.2, 26.9.3 right curly bracket. Specific strategies introduced into policy to date tend to be incremental rather than transformational. Fiscal constraints are higher for Mexican jurisdictions and sectors than for Canada or the USA. The literature on sectoral level adaptation is stronger in the areas of technological and engineering adaptation strategies than in social, behavioral, and institutional strategies. Adaptation actions have the potential to result in synergies or trade-offs with mitigation and other development actions and goals. High confidence. Left curly bracket 26.8.4.2, 26.9.3 right curly bracket 1445. 26. Chapter 26. North America. 26.1. Introduction. Observed impact. Books. Active.
Oh,
Actions available.
I should have stayed in books.
Safari. File. Safari. Books. Books. Library. Button. Library. 27 Central and South, 28 Polar regions, 29 small islands, 30 the ocean, 30 the ocean, H. Goldberg, 91% finished, in iCloud.
Is it going to open?
20, downloading.
Oh.
30 the ocean.
Why the ocean next?
H.
Well, because it's
Goldberg,
not the,
91%
it's ocean.
finished. 30 the ocean, H. Goldberg, library.
It was an editorial
button.
choice, okay?
30 the ocean coordinating lead authors. Ovho Goldberg,
Oh.
as page chooser. Page 1. Page 4. Global app, the ocean, executive summary.
As usual, we just finished a chapter. It's probably 20 minutes worth of stuff. Might be good to get a granola bar, or just go feed your cat, which, if it's like mine, will become insistent and unbearable if you don't. Onward.
30. Bookmark. Search. Markup. 30 the ocean. Book. 30. Executive summary. The ocean plays a central role in Earth's climate and has absorbed 93% of the extra energy from the enhanced greenhouse effect and approximately 30% of anthropogenic carbon dioxide, CO2, from the atmosphere. Regional responses are addressed here by dividing the ocean into 7 subregions: high-latitude spring bloom systems, HLSBS, eastern boundary upwelling ecosystems EBU, coastal boundary systems, CBS, equatorial upwelling systems, US, subtropical GIS, STG, semi-enclosed seas, SES, and the deep sea, DS, greater than 1000 m. An 8th region, polar seas, is dealt with by Chapter 28 left curly bracket Figure 30, 1, WGIAR5 6, 3, 1, WGIAR5 boxes 3.1, 3.8 right curly bracket. Global average sea surface temperatures have increased since both the beginning of the 20th century and the 1950s, certain. The average sea surface temperature SST of the Indian, Atlantic, and Pacific Oceans has increased by 0.65 degrees Celsius, 0.41 degrees Celsius, and 0.31 degrees Celsius, respectively, over the period 1950 to 2009, very likely, p. value less than or equal to 0.05. Changes in the surface temperatures of the ocean basins are consistent with temperature trends simulated by ocean atmosphere models with anthropogenic greenhouse gas, GHG, forcing over the past century high confidence. Subregions within the ocean also show robust evidence of change, with the influence of long-term patterns of variability, e.g., Pacific Decadal Oscillation, PDO, Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation AMO, contributing to variability at regional scales, and making changes due to climate change harder to distinguish and attribute. Left curly bracket 30.3.1, Figure 30-2 e.g., Table 30, 1, WGIAR 2, 4, 23, 3.2, 10.4.1, 14 right curly bracket. Uptake of CO2 has decreased ocean pH, approximately 0.1 unit over 100 years, fundamentally changing ocean carbonate chemistry in all ocean subregions, particularly at high latitudes, high confidence. The current rate of ocean acidification is unprecedented within the last 65 Ma, high confidence, if not the last 300 Ma, medium confidence. Warming temperatures, and declining pH and carbonate ion concentrations, represent risks to the productivity of fisheries and aquaculture, and the security of regional livelihoods given the direct and indirect effects of these variables on physiological processes, e.g., skeleton formation, gas exchange, reproduction, growth, and neural function, and ecosystem processes, e.g., primary productivity, reef building and erosion, high confidence, left curly bracket 6, 1, 2, 6.23, 30.3.2, 30.6, WGIAR 5 3, 8, 2, WGIAR 5 boxes 3.2, 5, 3, 1 right curly bracket. Regional changes observed in wines, surface salinity, stratification, ocean currents, nutrient availability, and oxygen depth profile in many regions may be a result of anthropogenic GHG emissions, low to medium confidence. Marine organisms and ecosystems are likely to change in response to these regional changes, although evidence is limited and responses uncertain. Left curly bracket 6.23, 30.3, 30.5, WGIAR 5 2.7, 3.38, 10.4.2, 10.4.4 right curly bracket. Most, if not all, of the ocean will continue to warm and acidify, although the rates will vary regionally. High confidence. Differences between representative concentration pathways, RCPs, are very likely to be minimal until 2040. High confidence. Projected temperatures of the surface layers of the ocean, however, diverge as the 21st century unfolds and will be 1 degree Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius higher by 2100 under RCP 8.5 than RCP 2.6 across most ocean subregions. The projected changes in ocean temperature pose serious risks and vulnerabilities to ocean ecosystems and dependent human communities. Robust evidence, high agreement, high confidence, left curly bracket 6.5, 30.3.12, 30.7.1, figure 30-2 e.g., table 30, 3, WGIAR5 11.3.3, 12.4.7, WGIAR5 box 1.1 right curly bracket. Rapid changes in physical and chemical conditions within ocean subregions have already affected the distribution and abundance of marine organisms and ecosystems. Responses of species and ecosystems to climate change have been observed from every ocean subregion. High confidence. Marine organisms are moving to higher latitudes, consistent with warming trends. High confidence, with fish and zooplankton migrating at the fastest rates, particularly in HLSBS regions. Changes to sea temperature have also altered the phenology, or timing of key life history events such as plankton blooms, and migratory patterns and spawning in fish and invertebrates, over recent decades. Medium confidence. There is medium to high agreement that these changes pose significant uncertainties and risks to fisheries, aquaculture, and other coastal activities. Ocean acidification may be driving similar changes. Low confidence, although there is limited evidence and low agreement at present. The associated risks will intensify as ocean warming and acidification continue. Left curly bracket 6.34, 30.45, table 30, 3, box CCMB right curly bracket. Regional risks and vulnerabilities to ocean warming and acidification can be compounded by non-climate related stresses such as pollution, nutrient runoff from land, and overexploitation of marine resources, as well as natural climate variability. High confidence. These influences confound the detection and attribution of the impacts of climate change and ocean acidification on ecosystems. Chapter 30 The Ocean. 1658. The Ocean Chapter 30. Yet may also represent opportunities for reducing risks through management strategies aimed at reducing yet may also represent opportunities for reducing risks through management strategies aimed at reducing their influence, especially in CBS, says, and HLSBS, left curly bracket 5, 3, 4, 18.3.34, 30.1.2, 30.56 right curly bracket.
So,
App switcher.
two
Books.
things.
Safari. Files. Active.
This is one of those chapters with
Files.
lots of
Done.
images that I
Button.
acquired.
Done. Item list. CCCR. 1 of 10.
I know
Heading.
that this CCCR stands for coral reefs, so this image is about coral reefs. Hopefully it's useful to you, but there is, as I said, a whole bunch of images in this chapter, so I'm going to give you 2 per break. I'm also going to draw your attention to the fact.
Item list. Done. Item list. CCMBA. CCCR. CCMBA. Selected. Done. Button.
CCMBA. That on the previous page, they mention, somewhere near the end of the previous page, they mention time frames of 65 MA and I think it was 330 MA. And at some point in one of the reports, they point out the fact they use the convention that M stands for million, I believe it's a capital M, and A stands for years. So 65 MA is over the past 65 million years, and 330, or whatever, 300 is obviously over the last 300 million years. And they're referring to it, the ocean being more acidic than it's been in the last 65 million years, and perhaps in the last 300 million years. So that's fairly significant.
App switcher. Files. Doc. Mail. Files. Books. Active. Books. Recent changes to wind and ocean mixing within the highly productive HLSBS, EBU, and use are likely to influence energy transfer to higher trophic levels and microbial processes. There is, however, limited evidence and low agreement on the direction and magnitude of these changes and their relationship to ocean warming and acidification. Low confidence. In cases where net primary productivity, NPP, increases or is not consumed, e.g., Bingula Ebu, low confidence, The increased transfer of organic carbon to deep regions can stimulate microbial respiration and reduce O2 levels. Medium confidence. Oxygen concentrations are also declining in the tropical Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, particularly US, due to reduced O2 solubility at higher temperatures. And changes in ocean ventilation and circulation, left curly bracket 6, 3, 3, 30.3, 30.5.12, 30.5.5, box CCPP, WGIAR5 3, 8, 3 right curly bracket. Global warming will result in more frequent extreme events and greater associated risks to ocean ecosystems. High confidence. In some cases, e.g., mass coral bleaching and mortality, projected increases will eliminate ecosystems, and increase risks and vulnerabilities to coastal livelihoods and food security, e.g. CBS in Southeast Asia, says, CBS. And STG in the Indo-Pacific, medium to high confidence. Reducing stresses not related to climate change represents an opportunity to strengthen the ecological resilience within these regions, which may help them survive some projected changes in ocean temperature and chemistry. Left curly bracket 5.4, 30.5.34, 30.5.6, 30.6.1, figure 30, 4, box CCCR, IPCC, 2012 right curly bracket. The highly productive HLSBS in the northeastern Atlantic has changed in response to warming, medium evidence, high agreement, with a range of consequences for fisheries. These ecosystems are responding to recent warming, with the greatest changes being observed since the late 1970s in the phenology, distribution, and abundance of plankton assemblages, and the reorganization of fish assemblages. High confidence. There is medium confidence that these changes will have both positive and negative implications depending on the particular HLSBS fishery and the time frame. Left curly bracket 6, dot, 4, dot, 1, dot, 1, 6, 5, 3, 30.5.1, 30, dot, 6, dot, 2, dot, 1, boxes CCMB, 6-1 right curly bracket. Use, which support highly productive fisheries off equatorial Africa and South America, have warmed over the past 60 years. Pacific use 0, 43 degrees Celsius, Atlantic use 0, 54 degrees Celsius, very likely, p-value less than or equal to 0.05. Although warming is consistent with changes in upwelling intensity, there is low confidence in our understanding of how use will change, especially in how El Niño Southern Oscillation, ENSO, and other patterns of variability will interact in a warmer world. The risk, however, of changes to upwelling increases with average global temperature, posing significant uncertainties for dependent ecosystems, communities, and fisheries. Left curly bracket 30.5.2, WGIAR5 14.4 right curly bracket. The surface waters of the SES show significant warming from 1982 and most CBS show significant warming since 1950. Warming of the Mediterranean has led to the recent spread of tropical species invading from the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Projected warming increases the risk of greater thermal stratification in some regions, which can lead to reduced O2 ventilation and the formation of additional hypoxic zones, especially in the Baltic and Black Seas. Medium confidence. In some CBS, such as the East China Sea and Gulf of Mexico, these changes are further influenced by the contribution of nutrients from coastal pollution contributing to the expansion of hypoxic, low O2, zones. These changes are likely to influence regional ecosystems as well as dependent industries such as fisheries and tourism. Although there is low confidence in the understanding of potential changes and impacts, left curly bracket 5, dot, 3, dot, 4, dot, 3, 30.5.34, table 30, 1 right curly bracket. Coral reefs within CBS, says, and STG are rapidly declining as a result of local stresses, i.e. coastal pollution, overexploitation, and climate change. High confidence. Elevated sea temperatures drive impacts such as mass coral bleaching and mortality. Very high confidence. with an analysis of the coupled model into comparison project phase 5, CMIP5. Ensemble projecting the loss of coral reefs from most sites globally by 2050 under mid to high rates of ocean warming, very likely, left curly bracket 29.3.1.2, 30.5.34, 30.5.6, figure 30, 10, box CC, CR right curly bracket. The productive EBU and use involve upwelling waters that are naturally high in CO2 concentrations and low in pH, and hence are potentially vulnerable to ocean warming and acidification. Medium confidence. There is limited evidence and low agreement as to how upwelling systems are likely to change. Low confidence. Declining O2 and shoaling of the aragonite saturation horizon through ocean acidification increase the risk of upwelling water being low in pH and O2, with impacts on coastal ecosystems and fisheries, as has been seen already, e.g. California current EBU. These risks and uncertainties are likely to involve significant challenges for fisheries and associated. 30. 1659. 30. Livelihoods along the west coast. Livelihoods along the west coasts of South America, Africa, and North America, low to medium confidence, left curly bracket 22.3.2.3, 30.3.2.2, 30.5.2, 30.5.5, boxes CC up, CC, PP right curly bracket.
You know, I've already
App
apologized
switcher, book, Safari,
for
files,
the incredibly
active,
lengthy stuff in brackets at the end of each
files,
chapter,
done,
but it's not
button,
really realistic for me to
item list, button,
do something about
done,
it,
done, CCMBA, item list,
sadly,
button,
because we all have to sit through it.
CCMBA, CCMBB, JPEG image,
Oh,
selected, done,
I think this is
button,
the second part of the previous image. Hopefully you didn't need to see them together. Well, if you did, you can back up for a second because it was there. A few seconds here.
done, item list, item list, CCMBB, item list, CCMBB, CCMBC,
Well, look at that.
JPEG image 990, selected, done, button,
CC is C. Clearly I should check to see if there's a D.
done, item list, button, CCMBB, CCMBC, CCPP, JPEG image 2 megabytes, dismiss pop-up, done,
Okay.
button,
This is a longer chapter and it has more images. Like more images per page even.
app switcher, files, active, books, active, book, the world's livelihoods of 30, livelihoods of chlorophyll concentrations measured by satellites have decreased in the STG of the North Pacific, Indian, and North Atlantic Oceans by 9%, 12%, and 11%, respectively. Over and above the inherent seasonal and interannual variability from 1998 to 2010 high confidence, p-value less than or equal to 0.05. Significant warming over this period has resulted in increased water column stratification, reduced mixed layer depth, and possibly decreases in nutrient availability and ecosystem productivity. Limited evidence, medium agreement. The short time frame of these studies against well-established patterns of long-term variability leads to the conclusion that these changes are about as likely as not due to climate change. Left curly bracket 6, 3, 4, 30.5.6, table 30, 1, box CCPP, WGIAR5 3, 8, 4 right curly bracket. The world's most abundant yet difficult to access habitat, the DS, is changing. Limited evidence, medium agreement, with warming between 700 and 2,000 meters from 1957 to 2010 likely to involve a significant anthropogenic signal. Medium confidence, full stop. Decreased primary productivity of surface waters, e.g. STG, is likely to reduce the availability of organic carbon to DS ecosystems. Understanding of the risks of climate change and ocean acidification to the DS is important given the size of the DS region but is limited. Low confidence. Left curly bracket 30.5.7, figure 30, 2, WGIAR5 3, 2, 4, WGIAR5 figures 3.2, 3.9 right curly bracket. Changes to surface wind and waves, sea level, and storm intensity will increase the vulnerability of ocean-based industries such as shipping, energy, and mineral extraction. Medium confidence. Risks to equipment and people may be reduced through the design and use of ocean-based infrastructure, together with the evolution of policy. Medium agreement. Risks and uncertainties will increase with further climate change. New opportunities as well as risks for shipping, energy, and mineral extraction, and international issues over access and vulnerability, may accompany warming waters, particularly at high latitudes. Left curly bracket 10.2.2, 10.4.4, 28.2.6, 28.3.4, 30.3.1, 30.6.2, IPCC, 2012 right curly bracket. Changes to ocean temperature, chemistry, and other factors are generating new challenges for fisheries, as well as benefits. High agreement. Climate change is a risk to the sustainability of capture fisheries and aquaculture development, adding to the threats of overfishing and other non-climate stresses. In use and STG, shifts in the distribution and abundance of large pelagic fish stocks will have the potential to create winners and losers among island nations and economies. There has been a boost in fish stocks of high-latitude fisheries in the HLSBS of the North Pacific and North Atlantic, partly as a result of 30 years of increase in temperature. This is very likely to continue, although some fish stocks will eventually decline. A number of practical adaptation options and supporting international policies can minimize the risks and maximize the opportunities. Left curly bracket 7, 4, 2, 7, 5, 1. 1.2, 29.4, 30.67 right curly bracket. Adaptation strategies for ocean regions beyond coastal waters are generally poorly developed but will benefit from international legislation and expert networks, as well as marine spatial planning. High agreement. Fisheries and aquaculture industries with high technology and or large investments, as well as marine shipping and oil and gas industries, have high capacities for adaptation due to greater development of environmental monitoring, modeling, and resource assessments. For smaller-scale fisheries and developing nations, building social resilience, alternative livelihoods, and occupational flexibility represent important strategies for reducing the vulnerability of ocean-dependent human communities. Building strategies that include climate forecasting and early warning systems can reduce impacts of warming and ocean acidification in the short term. Overall, there is a strong need to develop ecosystem-based monitoring and adaptation strategies to mitigate rapidly growing risks and uncertainties to the coastal and oceanic industries, communities, and nations. High agreement. Left curly bracket 7.5.1.1 30.6 right curly bracket. Significant opportunity exists within the ocean and its subregions for reducing the CO2 flux to the atmosphere. Limited evidence. Medium agreement. Ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrass, and salt marsh offer important carbon storage and sequestration opportunities, e.g. blue carbon. Limited evidence. Medium agreement. Blue carbon strategies can also be justified in terms of the ecosystem services provided by coastal vegetated habitats such as protection against coastal erosion and storm damage, and maintenance of habitats for fisheries species. Sequestration of anthropogenic CO2 into deep ocean areas still faces considerable hurdles with respect to the expense, legality, and vulnerability of storage sites and infrastructure. There are also significant opportunities with the ocean for the development of offshore renewable energy such as wind and tidal power. Left curly bracket 5, 7, 30.6.1, 30.6.4 right curly bracket. Chapter 30 The Ocean. 1660. The Ocean Chapter 30. International Frameworks for Collaboration and Decision. The Ocean, Chapter 30. App Switcher. Books. Doc. Book. Files. Files. CCMBC, 4 of 10. Heading. Markup. Share. CC. Item list. Button.
There we go.
CCM, CCMB, CCMBC, CCPP, JPEG image. Select Done. Button.
I guess it shouldn't be surprising that the ocean has one of the larger chapters because, of course, not everyone, most of the planet has access to an ocean or is surrounded by it. So, yeah.
Done. Button. Item list. Button. CCMBC, CCPP, CC up, JPEG image 600 and Done. Button.
And if I'm not mistaken,
Item list. Button. Figure 30.
Oh.
CC up.
there is
JPEG
more.
image
Okay.
600. Done. Button. App Switcher. Safari. Active. Books. Active. International The Ocean, Chapter 30. International frameworks for collaboration and decision-making are critically important for coordinating policy that will enable mitigation and adaptation by the ocean sectors to global climate change, e.g. United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. These international frameworks offer an opportunity to solve problems collectively, including improving fisheries management across national borders, e.g. reducing illegal, unreported, and unregulated RUU fishing, responding to extreme events, and strengthening international food security. Given the importance of the ocean to all countries, there is a need for the international community to progress rapidly to a whole-of-ocean strategy for responding to the risks and challenges posed by anthropogenic ocean warming and acidification. Left curly bracket 30.7.2 right curly bracket 30. 1661. 30. 30.1. Introduction. Library. Button.
interesting. Apparently I
App Switcher.
miscalculated
Books.
the length of the chapter
Active. Doc. Book. Files.
because there's still figures left.
Files. Done. Button. Item list. Button. Figure table 30. Figure 30. Figure 30. CC up.
Right.
Figure 30-1. Select Done. Button.
Turn off the Netflix. It's graphics binging. As I wrote in the comments of the first part of this report, if anyone can figure out what this music is that we're listening to,
App Switcher.
I would
Files.
greatly appreciate.
Active.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Actions available. Close. Activate. Done. Item list. Button. CCC. CC. Figure 30-1. Figure 30-2. Done. Button.
I've had this music on cassette tape since approximately 1991. And I've tried to find it online and I cannot. And it's important to credit music to me.
Done. Item list. Button.
Oops.
Figure 30-2.
30-2.
Item list. Button.
Where'd it go? Come back.
CCPP.
There
Figure 30-2. Figure 30-4. Dismiss CCPP. Figure 30-4. JPEG. Done. Button.
And if anyone feels compelled to write down the titles of these JPEGs and tell me what they are, that would help me in the future, perhaps. Though I'm not doing this video again, let me tell you.
Done. Item list. Button. C. Figure 30-2, Figure 30-4, Table 30-1, J. Select Done. Button.
Don't get buried in tables and figures. I mean, that's up to you. There's still 2 chapters after this. They're shorter, but just saying.
App Switcher, Safari, App Books, Active.
So
30.1.2, Library, Button.
what comes after Ocean?
Library, AR, Annex I authors and expert reviewers, page 6, front matter part B, V, R,
sorry.
Page, Annex I, 30 the 29 small island, 28 polar regions, 28 polar regions, J, N, Larson. Table of Contents, Button. The impacts of climate change, and the additional and executive summary. Chapter Bookmarks. Chapter 28 Bookmark. Chapter 28 Polar Regions. Executive Summary. Additional and stronger scientific evidence has accumulated since the AR4 that reinforces key findings made in the 4th Assessment Report, AR4. The impacts of climate change, and the adaptations to it, exhibit strong spatial heterogeneity in the polar regions because of the high diversity of social systems, biophysical regions, and associated drivers of change. High confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 28.2.2 right curly bracket. For example, the tree line has moved northward and upward in many, but not all, Arctic areas. High confidence. And significant increases in tall shrubs and grasses have been observed in many places. Very high confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.3.1.2 right curly bracket. Some marine species will shift their ranges in response to changing ocean and sea ice conditions in the polar regions. Medium confidence. The response rate and the spatial extent of the shifts will differ by species based on their vulnerability to change and their life history. Left curly bracket 28.2.2, 28.3.2 right curly bracket. Loss of sea ice in summer and increased ocean temperatures are expected to impact secondary pelagic production in some regions of the Arctic Ocean, with associated changes in the energy pathways within the marine ecosystem. Medium confidence. These changes are expected to alter the species composition of zooplankton in some regions, with associated impacts on some fish and shellfish populations. Medium confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 28.2.2.1 right curly bracket. Also, changes in sea ice and the physical environment to the west of the Antarctic Peninsula are altering phytoplankton stocks and productivity, and krill. High confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.2.2 right curly bracket. Climate change is impacting terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems in some areas of Antarctica and the Arctic. This is due to ecological effects resulting from reductions in the duration and extent of ice and snow cover and enhanced permafrost thaw. Very high confidence, and through changes in the precipitation-evaporation balance. Medium confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 28.2.1, 28.2.3 right curly bracket. The primary concern for polar bears over the foreseeable future is the recent and projected loss of annual sea ice cover, decreased ice duration, and decreased ice thickness. High confidence. Of the 2 subpopulations where data are adequate for assessing abundance effects, it is very likely that the recorded population declines are caused by reductions in sea ice extent. Left curly bracket 28.2.2.1.2, 28.3.2.2.2 right curly bracket. Rising temperatures, leading to the further thawing of permafrost, and changing precipitation patterns have the potential to affect infrastructure and related services in the Arctic. High confidence. Dart, left curly bracket 28.3.4.3 right curly bracket. Particular concerns are associated with damage to residential buildings resulting from thawing permafrost, including Arctic cities, small, rural settlements, and storage facilities for hazardous materials, left curly bracket 28.2.45 right curly bracket. In addition, there is new scientific evidence that has emerged since the AR4. The physical, biological, and socio-economic impacts of climate change in the Arctic have to be seen in the context of often interconnected factors that include not only environmental changes caused by drivers other than climate change but also demography, culture, and economic development. Climate change has compounded some of the existing vulnerabilities caused by these other factors. High confidence, left curly bracket 28.2.45, 28.4 right curly bracket. For example, food security for many indigenous and rural residents in the Arctic is being impacted by climate change, and in combination with globalization and resource development, food insecurity is projected to increase in the future. High confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.4 right curly bracket. The rapid rate at which climate is changing in the polar regions will impact natural and social systems, high confidence, and may exceed the rate at which some of their components can successfully adapt, low to medium confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.4, 28.4 right curly bracket. The decline of Arctic sea ice in summer is occurring at a rate that exceeds most of the earlier generation model projections, high confidence. And evidence of similarly rapid rates of change is emerging in some regions of Antarctica. Left curly bracket WGI AR5 chapters 4, 5, 9 right curly bracket. In the future, trends in polar regions of populations of marine mammals, fish, and birds will be a complex response to multiple stresses and indirect effects. High confidence. Left curly bracket 28.3.2 right curly bracket. Already, accelerated rates of change in permafrost thaw, loss of coastal sea ice, sea level rise, and increased weather intensity are forcing relocation of some indigenous communities in Alaska. High confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.4.2, 28.2.5, 28.3.4 right curly bracket. 28. 1570. Polar Regions Chapter 28. Shifts in the timing and magnitude of seasonal biomass production could Books. Safari. Active.
So, 2 points. One is Polar Regions is one of the sections that I was not able to
Menu.
access
Link.
an
Navigation.
image from the executive
Landmark.
summary.
AR5 Climate Change 2000 Address. Share. Button.
Nope.
Bookmarks.
It also occurred to me
Button.
that
Share. New tabs. Address. Reload. Menu. About. Data. New. For. Back. Dimmed. Multimedia. Link. End. Navigation. End.
I forgot to give you the recess that I normally
Actions
put in
available.
the middle of these presentations.
Back.
And I don't
Dimmed.
think I set up
Button.
a spot for you to see something that has nothing to do with what we're doing, to give you a break.
DIY Save the World, Part 3 of 2. 3. Back. DIY Save the World, Part 3 of 2.
I did
3
remember.
minutes 30.
Look at that.
Reload. Tap to unmute. back, dimmed.
Sorry if that was a little shocking. That was yours truly on the drums and my buddy Bill playing guitar and everything else.
Image. Calgary, Ab, Ling.
Wow.
App
It shook the
switcher.
dust.
Files. Active. Books. Active. Books. Ocean acidification. Shifts in the polar regions. Bookmarks. Polar regions chapter 28. Shifts in the timing and magnitude of seasonal biomass production could disrupt matched phenologies in the food webs, leading to decreased survival of dependent species. Medium confidence. If the timing of primary and secondary production is no longer matched to the timing of spawning or egg release, survival could be impacted, with cascading implications to higher trophic levels. This impact would be exacerbated if shifts in timing occur rapidly. Medium confidence, left curly bracket 28.2.2, 28.3.2 right curly bracket. Climate change will increase the vulnerability of terrestrial ecosystems to invasions by non-indigenous species, the majority likely to arrive through direct human assistance. High confidence. Ocean acidification has the potential to inhibit embryo development and shell formation of some zooplankton and krill in the polar regions, with potentially far-reaching consequences to food webs in these regions. Medium confidence. Embryos of Antarctic krill have been shown to be vulnerable to increased concentrations of carbon dioxide, CO2, in the water. High confidence. As well, there is increasing evidence that pelagic mollusks, pteropods, are vulnerable to ocean acidification. Medium confidence, left curly bracket 28.2.2, 28.3.2 right curly bracket. There is increased evidence that climate change will have large effects on Arctic communities, especially where narrowly based economies leave a smaller range of adaptive choices. Left curly bracket 28.2.6.1, 28.4 right curly bracket. Some commercial activities will become more profitable while others will face decline. Increased economic opportunities are expected with increased navigability in the Arctic Ocean and the expansion of some land and freshwater-based transportation networks. Left curly bracket 28.2.6.1.3, 28.3.4.3 right curly bracket. The informal, subsistence-based economy will be impacted. High confidence. There is high confidence that changing sea ice conditions may result in more difficult access for hunting marine mammals. Left curly bracket 28.2.6.1.6 right curly bracket. Although Arctic residents have a history of adapting to change, the complex interlinkages among societal, economic, and political factors and climatic stresses represent unprecedented challenges for northern communities, particularly if the rate of change will be faster than the social systems can adapt. High confidence, left curly bracket 28.2.5, 28.4 right curly bracket. Impacts on the health and well-being of Arctic residents from climate change are significant and projected to increase, especially for many indigenous peoples. High confidence. Left curly bracket 28.2.4 right curly bracket. These impacts are expected to vary among the diverse settlements, which range from small, remote, predominantly indigenous communities to large cities and industrial settlements. High confidence, especially those in highly vulnerable locations along ocean and river shorelines. Left curly bracket 28.2.4 right curly bracket. 1571. 28. Chapter 28. Polar Regions. 28.1. Library. Button.
Okie doke.
Library. Actions available. 22 Africa. 27 Central and 30 the Ocean.
Alphabetically.
Annex I authors and 30. 29 Small Islands.
Small Islands comes after Polar
29
Regions.
Small Islands. Library. Button.
I promise no more sudden shocks of late 80s rush to frighten your neighbors. YYZ was the song. And yes, I'm Canadian and it's called Z because that's the way I grew up, even though it's a Z. Anyway, so this is the final chapter, and there's a bunch of images in this chapter, so you're going to be overfilled.
SLR 20 current and 29 include loss of Chapter 29 Small Islands. Chapter 29 Small Islands. Executive Summary. Current and future climate-related drivers of risk for small islands during the 21st century include sea level rise, SLR, tropical and extratropical cyclones, increasing air and sea surface temperatures, and changing rainfall patterns. High confidence, robust evidence, high agreement, left curly bracket WGIA AR5 Chapter 14, Table 29. 1 right curly bracket current impacts associated with these changes confirm findings reported on small islands from the 4th Assessment Report, AR4, and previous IPCC assessments. The future risks associated with these drivers. 29 include loss of adaptive capacity left curly bracket 29, 6, 2, 1, 29, 6, 2, 3 right curly bracket and ecosystem services critical to lives and livelihoods in small islands, left curly bracket 29.3.13 right curly bracket. SLR poses one of the most widely recognized climate change threats to low-lying coastal areas on islands and atolls. High confidence, robust evidence, high agreement. Left curly bracket 29.3.1 right curly bracket. It is virtually certain that global mean SLR rates are accelerating. Left curly bracket WGIAR 513.2.1 right curly bracket. Projected increases to the year 2100, RCP 4.5, 0.35 meters to 0.70 m, left curly bracket WGIAR 513.5.1, Table 29, 1 right curly bracket superimposed on extreme sea level events, e.g. swell waves, storm surges, El Niño southern oscillation, present severe sea flood and erosion risks for low-lying coastal areas and atoll islands, high confidence. Likewise, there is high confidence that wave over, wash of seawater will degrade fresh groundwater resources left curly bracket 29.3.2 right curly bracket and that sea surface temperature rise will result in increased coral bleaching and reef degradation, left curly bracket 29.3.1.2 right curly bracket. Given the dependence of island communities on coral reef ecosystems for a range of services including coastal protection, subsistence fisheries, and tourism, there is high confidence that coral reef ecosystem degradation will negatively impact island communities and livelihoods. Given the inherent physical characteristics of small islands, the AR5 reconfirms the high level of vulnerability of small islands to multiple stresses, both climate and non-climate, high confidence, robust evidence, high agreement. However, the distinction between observed and projected impacts of climate change is often not clear in the literature on small islands, high agreement. Left curly bracket 29.3 right curly bracket. There is evidence that this challenge can be partly overcome through improvements in baseline monitoring of island systems and downscaling of climate model projections, which would heighten confidence in assessing recent and projected impacts. Left curly bracket WGIAR 59.6, 29.34, 29.9 right curly bracket. Small islands do not have uniform climate change risk profiles, high confidence. Rather, their high diversity in both physical and human attributes and their response to climate-related drivers means that climate change impacts, vulnerability, and adaptation will be variable from one island region to another and between countries in the same region. Left curly bracket figure 29, 1, table 29, 3 right curly bracket. In the past, this diversity in potential response has not always been adequately integrated in adaptation planning. There is increasing recognition of the risks to small islands from climate-related processes originating well beyond the borders of an individual nation or island. Such transboundary processes already have a negative impact on small islands, high confidence, robust evidence, medium agreement. These include airborne dust from the Sahara and Asia, distant source ocean swells from mid to high latitudes, invasive plant and animal species, and the spread of aquatic pathogens. For island communities, the risks associated with existing and future invasive species and human health challenges are projected to increase in a changing climate. Left curly bracket 29.5.4 right curly bracket. Adaptation to climate change generates larger benefit to small islands when delivered in conjunction with other development activities, such as disaster risk reduction and community-based approaches to development. Medium confidence. Dart. Left curly bracket 29.6.4 right curly bracket addressing the critical social, economic, and environmental issues of the day, raising awareness and communicating future risks to local communities. Left curly bracket 29.6.3 right curly bracket will likely increase human and environmental resilience to the longer-term impacts of climate change. Left curly bracket 29.6.1, 29.6.2.3, figure 29, 5 right curly bracket. Adaptation and mitigation on small islands are not always trade-offs, but can be regarded as complementary components in the response to climate change. Medium confidence. Examples of adaptation mitigation interlinkages in small islands include energy supply and use, tourism infrastructure and activities, and functions and services associated with coastal wetlands. The alignment of these sectors for potential emission reductions, together with adaptation, offer co-benefits and opportunities in some small islands. Left curly bracket 29.7.2, 29.8 right curly bracket. Lessons learned from adaptation and mitigation experiences in one island may offer some guidance to other small island states. Though there is low confidence in the success of wholesale transfer of adaptation and mitigation options when the local lenses through which they are viewed differ from one island state to the next, given the diverse cultural, socio-economic, ecological, and political values. Left curly bracket 29.6.2, 29.8 right curly bracket. 1616. Small Islands Chapter 29. The ability of small islands to undertake adaptation and mitigation. Active. Action files. Active.
The irony, of course,
done.
is
Button.
that
Table 30-1, 10, share, tape, item done, button.
Is that this
Done.
chapter only has
Browse.
2 pages, but it
Heading.
has
CCCR, August 1443, edit, but, graphics, back,
it has the
graphic,
most
browse, heading,
tables and charts.
Africa, the WGI, the ocean,
Nope.
small islands,
There we go.
Selected, browse, heading.
So I'm going to show you 3 at a time here.
Edit. Location. iCloud Drive. Recently. Small islands. Select. Graphics. Back button. Figure 29. Figure 29. List view. Figure 29-1. August 3rd. Selected. Figure 20. Done. Button.
Reaching the close here, so just hang on. And small islands is one of the areas I feel
done. Item list. Figure item list.
the
button.
most concerned for.
Figure 29-1. Figure 29-5. JPEG image. Figure 29-1. Figure 29. Selected. Done. Button.
Wow, no music, no cat, no cars driving by.
Figure 29-5, markup, share, item list, item list. Figure 29-5, table 29-1, JPEG image 400. Sit done, button.
Pause and look at your leisure as we go to the final page. And there will be more diagrams
App
afterwards.
switcher, files, books, books. Books, Like the ability of small islands, Chapter 29. Small islands, Chapter 29. The ability of small islands to undertake adaptation and mitigation programs, and their effectiveness, can be substantially strengthened through appropriate assistance from the international community. Medium confidence. However, caution is needed to ensure such assistance is not driving the climate change agenda in small islands, as there is a risk that critical challenges confronting island governments and communities may not be addressed. Opportunities for effective adaptation can be found by, for example, empowering communities and optimizing the benefits of local practices that have proven to be efficacious through time, and working synergistically to progress development agendas. Left curly bracket 29.6.2.3, 29.6.3, 29.8 right curly bracket 29. 1617. 29. 29.1 Introduction. It has long been recognized that active files, active files. Table 29-1, item list, button. Figure 29-1, Figure 29-5, Table 29-1, Table 29-3, Table 29-3,
There we go.
JPEG image. Done. Button.
You think you're done.
Done.
Sure.
Button. Done. Browse. Heading.
Okay.
Camera mode. Zoom. Zoom. Camera mode. Photo and take pic. Camera chooser. Camera chooser.
Bloop.
Front facing.
I assume that's showing me.
One face.
Oh, there we go.
Small face. Voiceover off.
Turn that off for a moment. So, you've managed to get through the entirety of the Working Group 2 2014 report on climate change impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability, or, well, the executive summaries of Part B, which is the regionally focused section. So, I mean, not the whole report, because we'd all be much older than we are now. In any event, as I said, in the comments for the YouTube video of this section, I will include detailed descriptions of how to find the documents, of where to online, how to, even different locations to download them often. There will be timings for each chapter in this section, as I did in the previous one, because I'll be able to go through it after it's processed and find the timings, put the comments in. It'll include accreditation for lots of other things, and 2 months from now will be the next new one, which I don't remember the name of.
Voiceover on.
Awesome,
Camera.
it worked.
Viewfinder. Image. Landscape. App switcher. Camera. Active. App switcher. Files. Active. Closing books. Active. Closing book. Safari. Dock. Safari. Edit mode. Activate. Safari. Close. Activate.
Last but not least,
Safari.
if you're interested in having
Dimmed.
conversations
Button.
or asking questions about this stuff,
Image. Understanding the IPCC.
it's a
Heading
meetup
level
group
1. Link.
on meetup.com.
Main. Landmark.
We meet at the last Monday of every month, and as I said, every 2 months there's a new video. There's a limit on what I can do. Thank you for your attention, and spread this information. That's what it's all about, is disseminating factual information on what we're doing to ourselves.
Bookmark address. Meetup. 3 of 3 Wi-Fi bars. Mother. Control center. AirDrop. Wi-Fi. Blue. Preview. Play. Next. Apple TV. Selected. Screen recording.